All right, so episode two. You'd probably make a pretty good argument. You say, Brandon, this should be episode one, planning out your food plots, and you would have absolutely every reason to say that, and you would be absolutely right. But just for the purposes of today, I guess I will explain that I did all this planning well before we did our soil samples in episode one. I just haven't had a chance to kind of put my thoughts down, record this, go through this, and obviously that's what you want to do first. I'm going to go ahead also and assume that you've got a pretty good idea of where you want to put your food plots. If you don't, and even if you do, I'm going to recommend Onyx, and I'm just going to remind everybody here that I'm getting paid $0 and sponsored by nobody here. But this tool is absolutely amazing. It is great for marking your trails. You can kind of walk through deer runs, look at pinch points. It has tools like Google Maps where you can measure the size of your area, your plots, draw little rectangles through the mapping software here, and get a really good feel for how many acres exactly is this without going out to the field and everything. You can mark tree stands, boundaries, of course, all the other stuff that you get with Onyx, like the neighboring property information and whatnot. But I've used it for tracking deer, marking blood, all those kind of things, putting up your trail cams. It's one of those things when you're in the office or it's on the weekend or the weather's bad and you don't have a chance to go out in the woods. The tool is absolutely kind of fun to play with when you're sitting inside. So anyhow, plan out your plots. Know that it's important to have a plan, and there are so many better articles and videos on YouTube and on the internet on where to put a plot, what to plant and where. Right, I'm not going to get too much into that, but the focus of this series really is for those that have ATV or in particularly UTV access. So you're going to do a small little quarter acre wood plot with hand tools, right? I've been there, I've done that. Go ahead, but we're going to really focus on you've got access an area where you can get a UTV in, you can do some equipment maneuvering, and you're going to do some plots. That's what we're going to focus on in this series. The other thing that probably goes without saying is if you have access to a tractor, right, and you can get your tractor into your food plots, use your tractor, right? Spend the money if you have that kind of money. That is the right and perfect, not perfect, but correct way to do this. So, anyhow, again, we're focusing on UTVs. And before you start going out and spending thousands of dollars on equipment, have an idea for the areas. I'm not going to show you my areas. This is zoomed out quite a bit. I've already stated before and will continue to show clips of the property, but I'm not going to get you too into the weeds there for privacy reasons. Um, so start by understanding where you're going to plant, the size, the acreage, kind of get a good idea for what you want to plant. A little quick update as well from episode one where we did the soil samples. Really big shout out to the Whitetail Institute. We mailed those Saturday afternoon via FedEx. They received those samples Thursday, and Friday morning I had an email from all three plots. Super excited too because I've read so many horror stories about pHs being off and guys needing to buy just truckloads of lime to get their pH right. All three of my spots, pH was good, and looks like we're just going to be doing a little bit of fertilizer spreading, which will be great. And obviously, we're going to get into that later in the series. So you're starting from the bottom. You've got nothing. You've got an idea for the size and acreage of everything you want to plant. Excuse me. And this is where I come into play. This is how I do things. This is basically how I do everything. Car shopping, electronics, anything major that's going to be purchased in my life is just to research the heck out of it. So I suggest you get an Excel file open. You start watching YouTube videos, Googling. You can look at some of the reasons and follow me along here on why I've done certain things, and start mapping this out. Right, have a budget. Also, please understand you don't have to buy everything that I've bought here. You can swap things and out things that you want that you appear to be a little bit better. You can swap things out that you think might be cheaper or you don't necessarily need. The other thing is I haven't used any of this stuff yet. I haven't even put a single piece of this equipment together. So I don't even know or can recommend yet. Obviously, that's going to come later on in the spring and summer to get you an idea of what makes sense. But we're going to start with the fact, and we'll have later videos on the Can-Am that I bought. I bought a 2022 Can-Am Defender DPS. That's the power steering HD9. So that's a 900cc motor. I don't have the specs in front of me, but I know it's well over 1,000 pounds. When you compare that to like a 500cc Polaris or even like a 750 Polaris, those are typically, and any quad really for that matter, those are typically around 600-700 pounds, I think, with fuel. And I'll give a little shout out to the guys at the Hunting New York forum here. That's what I started at. I was thinking I'm just going to get a UT or an ATV, something I can drag deer out on, do some food plotting work, do some work around the farm, and a lot of those guys really recommended a UTV, which costs a heck of a lot of money, right? Especially in 2022 with supply chain shortages, you're not going to be able to find much that you want in stock anywhere. I looked at Rangers, couldn't get one till the spring, and then really sort of convinced myself that that 900cc, a little bit extra weight, and even though it's a little wider than the Ranger, was really the right way to go. So you're going to need some power to do any field work. Pretty much everybody out there recommends at least 500. I don't know, but I wouldn't feel too comfortable doing some major work without anything at least being in the 600-700 range. So the other reason for the UTV is a lot of extra weight. So this is kind of going back to my previous comment here, right? You want to use a tractor that's meant for farming if you have a tractor. Most of us don't, and you're looking at $20,000-$30,000 to just get the tractor without all the equipment and everything, and they're not the best tools for dragging out deer in the middle of the woods and things like that. So if you go sort of the middle ground, which is what I did, you're going to get a lot of extra weight with that UTV, which is going to help. Mostly everything that we're going to look at today can be done with a quad or UTV without that extra weight. It's where it comes to breaking soil, right, and using the equipments like the cultivator and the tillers, and that's putting power to ground. And we'll talk a little bit about why I chose what I chose here. I will say the most commonly recommended tool I saw out there for quads, if you're still watching this, is the I think it's called like the Groundhog Max. You can watch videos on that. Basically, you get your quad up on ramps, and it has a bunch of tills, a couple like 3 or 4 tills, cultivator disc, I'm sorry, going into the ground, and then uses the weight of your UTV. Otherwise, again, you're not going to be able to sort of push your equipment into the ground, and with the lighter ATVs, it's going to get you up off the ground. So that is part of the reason I will talk about why I went with the Kolpin 3-point hitch system. But that's really sort of the limitations. That, and once you start digging through soil and you're hitting rocks and roots, unless it's already pre-plowed and tilled and just needs a little refreshing, you're going to have some limitations with your ATV there. Okay, so first things first, you might not need a mower, but you probably do. If you're doing anything of decent size, especially if you're going to be planting clover, you have trails or you have fields of any kind, you're probably going to want to invest in a mower. A bunch of different options out there. I think the 3 that I sort of ruled or whittled down my choices to was first was the Dr. Mower. Pretty good recommendations across the board there, although there's some comments recently, some of the forums and searching that I did that said, you know, they got bought by Generac and they've sort of gone downhill a little bit there. The other is one you can find at Lowe's. Crap, the name's escaping me. We'll do a Google search while I'm talking here. But that was another common brush mower, right? What you're basically looking for here. Let's see, try trail mower, see if that gets us over. Yeah, so there we go, Swisher. That's the name of what I was looking for. So I think if you've got really flat land and you're not worried about bumps or anything really too far off terrain, a Swisher is a decent model to look at. You can see that here the prices aren't that bad. Common issues I did here with them is if you get the 2-wheel models, you're going to get a lot of scalping as you hit rivets or anything on an incline. And then, you know, I did a lot of searching, a lot of research across the board with a lot of complaints. They just really didn't last. And I kind of think this comes into the you get what you pay for. So the one model I found that was almost universally recommended across the board was the rough cut mower by Kuhns. They make two different or three or four different models, but there is a what you can see here is a 23 horsepower. I believe there's a 19 horsepower as well. I didn't see a single bad review from Kuhns. They make some other really good gear, but by and large, just across the board, well recommended. Some of the guys that do videos out there for food plotting also recommend the Kuhns. It's not cheap. It's the most expensive. I went with the 44-inch to save some money. And you can see here $4,500. This is the cheapest place I found it. Everything Polaris Ranger. Probably saying, Brandon, you got a Can-Am. You're right. It's the exact same model. Everything Can-Am sells it for more. I have no idea there. So you pay a little bit of shipping. Look around. You can find some coupons as well. Actually ended up getting it for a price of $3,800 without tax. So there is some discounts you can find there. I've got mine on order. I'm excited about it. I got the manual engaged instead of the electric. That'll save me some money. But I've got an orchard. I've got trails. I'm going to do clover. So I need the mower. That is by far the most expensive thing you can see on this list, though. So that's that. Certainly something that I didn't need to buy right away. Could easily have got later on in the year. I'm just worried with 2022 supply chain shortages, all that kind of stuff, that I wasn't going to be able to get this. So it's going to sit in the garage for a little while, but pretty excited about that. Okay. Hitch Systems. So I mentioned earlier, right, that if you've got a UTV or an ATV, the hardest part and the biggest issue you're going to get is putting power to the ground. Now, power to the ground is something that you can accomplish a couple different ways, and how tractors generally accomplish that. And I don't have the terminology here, but they've got the 3-point on the back, which can push your attachments into the ground, engaging into the soil, using the weight of the tractor. So Kolpin makes something. This is the Amazon site. Shows you that, again, this is not a cheap thing. And do some research, right? I'm not going to walk you through and take you to Kolpin's website, but Kolpin does make this dirt work system. And what's really kind of cool about this, and what grabbed my eye, is I can put this on my 2-inch hitch on my receiver, which is what I have on my UTV. And it claims to provide an incredible 300 pounds of downforce. So it's electronic. I'm going to assemble the one that I've got today. We'll follow up later and kind of get an idea of how easy that assembly was, how excited I am to try it out. It's going to be a while before I get to try it out. And it comes with these bars. You can buy separate bars, and each one of these bars has attachments to it. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but you can get a cultivator, tines, rakes, whole bunch of different types of attachments, or what they call accessory bars. You don't need a different bar for $140 for each of your accessories, but they recommend it that way you're not changing out plates and tines and stuff for each accessory. So anyhow, what it basically does in a nutshell is allows you to lift and lower your attachments, and then also lower them below your wheelbase there, not your wheelbase, but your tires, so you're engaging into the ground without the need to go up on ramps to get your accessories like your cultivators into the ground. So that was the first thing I started off with. That's kind of the basics of what I built my my whole idea behind. So bought the hitch system, and then I went and I got some tillers. I don't know if I need these. We'll find out if this was $287 well spent, or maybe unnecessary. But they really recommend these this cultivator set, or what they call these S-tines, to break ground for the first time. And that I'm hoping will be reviews are across the board, but maybe I don't need these. The beauty of ordering some stuff on Amazon is you do have the ability to return things pretty easy, but the S-tines are made for breaking that really tough ground. I kind of ordered these just in case. My thoughts and my game plan will be, after I do some mowing, some spraying, to start with the S-tines first. And so after the S-tines is the, let's see if I can find it here. Where's my website? Or here's my look. So is the cultivators. I only found these at Home Depot. That's the other thing you're going to notice. Some stuff's at Amazon, some stuff's at Home Depot, Lowe's, kind of across the board. This is probably what most people will start with. Maybe you don't even need the S-tines. It's a really kind of good picture of here. of it attached to that 3-point system. You've got all your discs. I haven't bought this yet. I'm a little nervous as well because a lot of places are out of stock, but I'm probably going to order this soon just so I have it. You can see it attached to that 3-point. So again, the 3-point is a separate system. You get the cultivator packs separately, and you would want to buy the bar if it doesn't come with it as well. Otherwise, you're going to keep taking these off and replacing them on your bar for $150 to not have to do that every time, whether you're getting a rake or something like that. I think is money well spent. So so that's breaking ground. That's my plan. The 3-point, the cultivator, S-hook tiller, excuse me, and the cultivator to break that ground. That's running me a good amount of money, but I think that's going to be everything I need to break ground and put seeds in the ground. They also make a rake. I'm not sure if I'm going to get this or not. The only reason I thought maybe this would be kind of cool to have the rake is like the trails. So you're sneaking in the woods with your bow late in the season. You want to be able to get all those sticks and twigs off the ground. What I've always done is just pick them up by hand. It's not a big deal, but maybe $270, this will be money well spent. Or maybe if I'm mowing and I don't want my cultivators and other tools getting all clogged with grass, maybe the rake would make it. This is also for driveways and stuff like that. I probably am not going to get this, but it's another, again, accessory option. You can see that hooks up to that 3-point amongst a few other things. So that's me digging up the ground. As far as seeds, I'm probably going to do everything by hand. Haven't ordered that as yet either, but you'll see most videos guys walking around with a big red bag on their belly. That's probably what I will do as well for seeds. But fertilizer and lime, right? This took probably by far the most research, to like an annoying amount of time on research. They make some really good spreaders for ATVs. They sit on the back of the ATV rack, and they make some pull behind spreaders that you can use to tie up to your hitch. Every review for a pull behind said the wheels aren't great, the thing's going to tip over, it's going to bounce around, the control's not great. And using a UTV, I just can't mount something in the back of an ATV rack because I don't have an ATV. My dad does, but I'm trying to do everything on UTV. There's a couple different models. There's one that's metal, and then Guide Gear makes this plastic thing. It's already arrived. I'm going to assemble it today. The reviews are really mixed on this one. So $240 is a decent amount of money, but it's 80 pounds. So you're going to get 2 bags of lime or a bunch of bags of fertilizer in there. Most of the reviews have to do with the gate at the bottom. I opened it up the other day and I can see why that might be an issue, why it might not close if you get it clogged with some fertilizer while you're spreading. It's got to hook up to your battery, so that's some other stuff I've got to figure out, but it does mount to the hitch. It's a reversible hitch type depending on the size of your receiver mount. Other than like $1,000 salt spreaders that are probably really good quality, this is the only thing that I could find. So if it works, great. There's some really good mixed reviews. If it doesn't work, I'm going to be a little disappointed. But there's really not a lot of options out there for hitch mount or any sort of UTV mount spreader that is reasonably priced, even below $1,000, let alone below $500. So we use this for fertilizer. Well, you could use it for lime if you needed it. Again, earlier I mentioned, thankfully I don't have to lime it, so I'm excited about that. But for fertilizer spreading, this will make it easier. Sure, I've got Scott's hand spreaders and things like that, but again, we're trying to use this all by the ATV. But for seeds, I don't know. I think it's rated for seeds, but some of the seeds are so small. I think you're going to probably be better off just walking your plots with a hand spreader. So you got your seeds on. You can use a drag harrow, or you can use a cultipacker. Many people out there have great success, no issues with drag harrows. I might do that as well, but I'm going to try a cultipacker because generally they are recommended for certain types of seeds if you can use it. Now, you're saying, why don't I get a Colpin cultivator? They don't make one that attaches to the 3-point. All you have is is like a standalone cultipacker, which is a decent amount of money, and I want to use one that takes advantage of the 3-point. So what I found, where are we here? Maybe I didn't pull that one. Oh, here it is. So I found Black Boar. They've got some mixed reviews for their products out there, very similar kind of to the Kolpin products. But anyhow, mixed reviews, and you know, I don't know. It's made out of polymer, I believe, so it's got some weight to it, but durability, I'm not necessarily sure about. What you see here is Black Boar is a similar sort of hitch system. I don't believe theirs is a 3-point, and um, long story short, in the research that I did, I decided that the Kolpin would be the better way to go. But what you do see here is this mounts to a accessory bar. And did some research here. It's a 2-inch by 2-inch, I believe, same exact dimensions as the Kolpin. So I might buy this cultivator or cultipacker, excuse me, to use with my Kolpin accessory bar. Again, still haven't bought this. This is something that you don't necessarily need. Drag harrows, especially homemade ones out of chain link fence and everything, are perfectly fine. Cultipackers might be a little bit better. 188 bucks without the accessory bar, so you're looking at maybe $300. I don't know if that's money yet. I still want to spend, but you are going to need some way to make contact with your seeds in the soil. You're not just going to throw your seeds out there and be good with it. So that's something I'm looking at as well. Let's see, what do we got left? Spreader, oh, and sprayer. After the spreader, this was probably my second most difficult item to find. They make a lot of really good sprayers for ATVs. Sprayers that hook right back up to that back rack on your ATV. They make pull behind sprayers, really expensive. Different brands. I forget the name of the one company there, but there's Femco or something like that. I don't have that in front of me, but has a really good reputation of making good stuff, but really, really expensive. And I'm probably just going to need a sprayer for spraying some Roundup, maybe some herbicides and stuff, depending on how things go. But you're going to need to spray Roundup. And walking around with a backpack sprayer is definitely not something I want to do. So I looked and looked and looked and looked. This Workhorse Sprayer has some different reviews kind of across the board. Lowe's, I think at the time, had the best price. I have a Lowe's card too, so I can get 5% off of this. But this is meant for utility vehicles. You can see on the back here, it has a boom spray, has all the specs and everything I believe that I think I want. Haven't bought this yet either, but excited about trying that out. And I believe that takes us to the end of the list here. So those are all the tools that I'm thinking about buying. Kind of trying to look at my price tag with tax, 7,500 bucks. I mean, Jesus, right? That's a lot of money for killing deer. But I'm excited about the food plotting process. Doing a little bit of farming, I think, is going to be cool. Most of this stuff should last a long time. And then you're saying, well, without the mower, what is it? 3,200 bucks. That's not too bad either. So the other thing, the first thing actually I looked at was one of those all-in-one systems. Micro Food Plot makes one. There's a couple other that you look out there. They've got spreaders, cultipackers, cultivators, all that stuff tied into one system. They're like $5 or $6 grand. And the reviews are mixed. The cultipackers are just rolls without the different knobs on them. I wasn't too excited about them, and most of the websites for those guys, you can't even order it. You got to make a phone call. Just kind of weird. And there's some good reviews out there, but I said, well, what would it take to kind of piece everything together instead of buying this all-in-one system? And in my experience with most things all-in-one is they're not as good as doing things individually. And sure enough, without the mower, I'm well below the 4, 5, 6 grand that some of those things go for. The mower obviously is a lot, but those all-in-ones don't have the mower included. So here's this is part 1, planning your job, right? In episode 2, what I'm going to do later today, because it is like 5 degrees in upstate New York, is I'm going to assemble some of the stuff that I've already got in. I've got the hitch system and the tiller, and I've got the spreader actually. So that was ordered. I got to update my list here. I'm going to put those together because there's nothing else to do, and maybe take some videos of the before and after and give you some comments on that. All right, thanks guys. Okay, so we're going to add on a little bit to this video here. As I mentioned, I've got the spreader. the S tines, box open just to make sure everything was good, and 3-point, and also one of the accessory bars that you get a combo deal on in Amazon if you get the 3-point. It's actually cheaper if you buy accessory bars from Guide Gear by about 30 bucks. So if you're gonna buy more, check that out. But anyhow, here's 3 boxes. It is cold. There's like, it's like 15 degrees of snow. 15 degrees of snow. 15 degrees outside, a bunch of snow. So no hiking, no food plotting work going on right now. So I am gonna probably actually bring these inside and put them together. We'll let you know how that goes. Okay, so got the spreader assembled. There's no really good way to lay this thing. It's top heavy. I'll say the metal's heavy, good quality. Took me 45 minutes, sort of taking my time. Directions absolutely suck. It's not clear, the steps are kind of mingled. Once you kind of figure it out though, everything kind of has a place in a home. I think it's probably missing a few washers where there should be some. Also, and I knew this going into buying it, but the control is mounted to the hopper. Now you're driving around in your UTV, you're going to want to be able to control that gate while you're moving, as well as turning it off and on. So it's got the, gosh, I don't see, maybe 5-foot cable to hook into power here, but you're going to have to stop and get off your UTV and then go adjust it. And the whole time your gate's going to be open and you're going to have stuff coming through your through the bottom of your hopper there. So this should be easy enough to sort of detach this, probably splice a longer cable for power. Overall though, I'm concerned because this is a what do you call it, like a bike cable, right? Like, so this is actuated wire, nothing mechanical here. So I'd have to also try to extend this, and that's getting into a level of customization that I really would prefer not to do. Easy enough, just for the money. Kind of a bad design there that I feel like they could give you another 6 feet or so. But anyhow, we'll see when I get it all powered up and hooked up what we're gonna do there. All right, a beer and 45 minutes later. Got the 3-point assembled. Directions are great, very straightforward. Everything here is actually pretty easy. Just took me some time because everything's pretty heavy. I mean, I'm impressed with the build quality, really good. It is heavy. Obviously, I have no idea how to use it yet and have not hooked it up to an accessory bar. I don't think I'm going to work on that tonight. And the wiring and everything like that is not done yet, but real pretty straightforward, nothing confusing install here. I don't know, my 19mm sockets fit just good, but with the drill, I don't know, it's odd. These look like normal nuts. You do need a Allen key that comes supplied for these fittings here, but for whatever reason it kept stripping. Cheap sockets, or maybe just a slightly odd lock nut there, but I don't know. So anyhow, I would recommend 2 12-inch adjustables. That's how I got it done. It takes a little bit longer doing it manually, but really impressed with this so far. You can see here's the actuator that would be used to go up and down. It's going to be a while before we get to put this bad boy to use. Obviously, we're not going to start tilling anything to the spring, and that's the first time we'll need it, but yeah, so far so good.